And has always been an integrating function. So you bring product together by getting design, engineering, sales, marketing, everybody together. And the quantity of product management is all about the decisions you make and how fast you make them. This involves a lot of reading, a lot of communication, a lot of writing. And if you're not using AI tools to get better at each one of these, you're just missing out. If you're a PM who's still taking notes and sending out manually, or you're not using ChatGPT or whatever tool that you prefer to improve your status reports, decision report out, you're just falling behind.
Welcome to LaunchPod AI, the show from LogRocket where we sit down with top product and digital leaders to talk real, practical ways they're using AI on their teams to move faster and be smarter. Today, we're talking with Neha Monga, former head of product at Lattice, and has led product teams at Meta, Amazon, Expedia, and more. In this episode, we'll discuss the AI workflows that are now table stakes for PMs and how to adopt them so you don't fall behind, how Neha's team used Figma Make and Claude to spin up high-fidelity prototypes, gather customer feedback faster, and slash validation times with design and engineering, and the PM Intern they built inside Slack to instantly surface insights from their massive customer feedback library. So here's our episode with Neha Monga. Hey Neha, good to see you again. It's been a little bit since we had dinner in Seattle and a whole bunch of folks were there. We had to sit across from each other, and you had so many cool AI use cases that your team had been using that had to get you on the show. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And there's so much to talk about with AI, how it's changed the way we all work and kind of a new operating system emerging for product managers to work with.
The dinner we were at was in June, I think, beginning of June. I already feel like so much has changed, a month and a half later. So I'm excited to hear about the new things that I've missed that you've done in like literally 30 days.
It's going at neck break speed, right? So yeah, like I have to keep on it and keep learning and just be having a very curious mindset at all times.
Exactly. And that's hopefully what we're here to do is, the point is at that dinner and everywhere else I've been around the country talking to product leaders like yourself, that's the big question is how are people actually using this stuff to get more productive, to be smarter, faster? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited. You got a pretty amazing pedigree here, right? You most recently head of product at Lattice. Before that, it was Meta, Amazon, Expedia, Zynga. Like you're just checking off great companies one after another. And given that, I'm excited to see kind of how you found this stuff useful. I think in our pre-call, we kind of broke it down into two things, right? This far into the game, there is just the kind of like table stakes gimme use cases. And you're doing well at this stuff and you've got a few things down pat. Let's maybe just go through like, what does that look like? And how you kind of operating in those areas where it's just, these are the things you have to do to even just keep up at this point.
I think that is such a great question because many of these AI tools have become like table stakes. If you're not using those tools to actually do your PM work on a day-to-day basis, you're just falling behind. And the best way to learn AI is actually by using it and seeing how other products are being built. To me, like, PM has always been an integrating function, right? So you bring product together by getting design, engineering, sales, marketing, everybody together. And the quality of product management is all about the decisions you make and how fast you make them. This involves a lot of reading, a lot of communication, a lot of writing. And if you're not using AI tools to get better at each one of these, you're just missing out at this point of time. Because if you're a PM who's still taking like notes and sending out, right, like manually, or you're not using like ChatGPT or whatever tool that you prefer to improve your status reports, decision report outs, and all those different things, you're just falling behind. Like it should really not be taking any time. You should be using tools like whether it's your Zoom AI, whether it's your Granola or favorite meeting recording tool, and making sure everything's being captured and spread out. That is just the table stakes. You should not be spending as a PM time on doing these things because they can be so easily and efficiently done by tools that are available to us right now.
What's the tool stack you found that you kind of really like to do the meeting recording, to distill out what needs to get done, or what did your team find useful?
I think there are two answers to this. One is definitely like a tool stack that your company uses. And fortunately, companies are moving fast too, right? So if you look at Zoom, they have Zoom AI that can take notes and things like that. So try and use these AI functionality that already exists in your company, right? But sometimes your companies don't have those and it's still like valuable. For example, I personally find it valuable, even for my personal meetings. I do a lot of like advising and coaching CEOs and things like that. And I use Granola as a tool, which is not something that kind of intrudes in your meeting, another attendee that's joining your meeting, things like that. It takes really high quality notes. So research, find the best tools that they can use. But there are also like existing tools like Zoom, etc., that already have this built in and making sure you're using them. and getting your IT teams to enable these for you, right? And work with the manager to make sure you have access to these things.
Yeah, I think that you nailed something we haven't touched on yet on this show is like you have this speed of moving forward and wanting to try things. And at the same time, we've run into enough companies where they have all this kind of worry about, is data going to get into the wrong place? Is there sensitive stuff going to be exposed? There's a balance there, but hopefully companies are working in a good way to allow people the freedom to move and to try, but also you have to be aware of what you might be exposing on your end. Like if you're working at a medical software company and you have patient records that you are emailing back and forth and dealing with, maybe be a little bit more aware about using some kind of AI email tool. If you are just kind of doing like software for some kind of B2B, normal thing, probably less sensitive, right? I haven't actually heard of Granola. What is that one? I assume it's, to do with recording phone calls.
Yeah, so Granola is it actually records everything, which is what I love about it. It can be like a Zoom and on Google Meet meetings or sometimes just phone calls, right? So it does recording across everything, does not join, gives you the transcript. If I don't like the summarization, sometimes I can copy paste the transcripts to one ChatGPT. And I think the point you make around sensitive data and data protection, I think that's super pertinent. Actually, it reminds me of time that we were using mobile phones and corporations would just log email on iPhone or Android, what have you. But then in the end, they realized they just need to catch up with that, right? Because this is what's being used. And it's somewhat some way of like consumerization of IT and like trends around people going to use AI and how the IT departments get ahead of that. Fortunately, the difference that I'm seeing with the AI wave versus the mobile wave right now, that enterprises really want to use, like something like CEOs and companies, like top down, they want their people to use these tools. And they're in some ways, getting the IT teams, procurement teams to like move faster on these things and try a bunch of different things out.
This is one thing that I've personally struggled with, and I think lots of people have, is it's easy to record the calls. There's a million solutions now to transcribe them, whether it's in the tool or outside of it. And then you can put it into like a chat GPT or you can put it into Gemini or whatever your thing is that you want to parse it with to do all the post stuff. But that also takes time. Like my dream is just, I do a phone call, it magically, is transcribed. It goes to wherever I want it. All the salient things I like done in my phone calls are done. And I just magically get out, like things are out of my to-do list. Someone gets shot an email, like, hey, here's what we went through. How did you kind of work that workflow on your end when you were kind of going through calls, whether you were advising or at Lattice or other places?
You're absolutely right. Like, this is where like, all these point solutions are emerging, but they don't work together really well, right? For example, Gmail has Gemini. It works beautifully in Gemini, like, in Gmail context. Same thing, Zoom is amazing. Like it actually notes down like every single thing, tags people, and can even create a agenda for next meeting. But right now, stitching these tools together is very painful, right? But even then, it saves you just so much time. Like you can be fully present in a meeting without having to worry about like, oh, let me write this down, or who's actually going to miss this, right? And remembering things. My dream is where like there's a little bit more consolidation in the tool set so that I don't even have to pay for like, oh, here's my meeting recording tool. Here's my meeting setup tool. Here's my Gmail email where I purchased Gemini. And then I use Claude for like, prototyping. And then I also have ChatGPT because I love custom GPTs. And this kind of really adds up. And I would love to see where things start consolidating a little bit more and people and products become more end-to-end in achieving scenarios versus the point solutions. So that's still useful, but it'll be great to have something more.
It definitely seems like there's got to be a network effect somewhere here, because all of these workflows are great if you have like this agent, this agent, this agent. And every company on earth is announcing like their agent right now or the AI strategy or something like that, and they're all really good. Like I've seen, there's obviously some bad ones, but there's a lot of really good solutions coming out. But the thing we always run to, like at LogRocket, right? Like what we do is digital experience analytics. We have session replay analytics, and we launched like 18 months ago the capability to have agents watch your sessions and kind of pull out what are the actual areas of user friction and how do you kind of find what's really important versus false positives. And that was good. But the problem with that was there was just so much other data in the product stack that people had to deal with still, right? Like you had, I don't know, even just running through, you had A/B testing tools, you had user feedback in maybe the App Store or G2 or interviews you've done, UX interviews, you had linear tickets or Jira tickets or intercom tickets, support on the other end. And what we realized was the best path forward is this world where basically software kind of heals itself or helps you run itself. And so that's, the thing we just announced pulls a lot of that together. It will go into your interviews, it'll go into your app store reviews, it'll go into your user feedback and support tickets, and all the way back to your Linear or Jira tickets to see what launched, and pull it all together so that you can write the equivalent of, I want to do my phone call and have the notes sent, the email sent, the follow-up sent. I want to have stuff added to my task list. It will kind of do all those things. And that's, I think, a future where there's probably going to be value accruing in certain pockets.
I remember when I was a kind of more early career PM, we would launch something, we'd look at the App Store reviews, we'd look at like all the usage data in a different dashboard, engineering dashboard, then a product dashboard, and like trying to like connect the dots, and it would take so much time. What you're proposing with LogRocket, that just sounds magical.
I think that's the model going to be in a lot of places is, right, either there's going to be a central part of an ecosystem and you're going to have all these other tools around it, I feel like, or you're going to just have kind of one thing acquire a bunch of other pieces. So I'm curious to see how that part shakes out.
Yeah, or like the whole MCP server thing, right? Like I'm actually really excited about the connectors, MCP, A2A protocols. Obviously the adoption is not where it is, but I would love to like, okay, could we just create like these different like context servers that we can easily pull things in?
One thing I do want to talk about is, for the longest time, PMs would talk to users and talk to prospects, and they would kind of come up with the ideas and the use cases. And then you'd have to go and sit down with a UX designer, a product designer, maybe an engineer, maybe a team of engineers, and like just translate the needs. And what you've talked about is being able to move farther down that stack and coming forward with, prototypes that you're able to generate from these AI coding tools to really showcase what this product could be and help kind of move it down faster and help companies move faster. Can you maybe talk with us a little bit about what that looked like and how you kind of got the team there and how you guys use those tools?
I think there are two aspects to it. One is like, what tools exist? What can we even do, right? Like understanding the capability. And second is like, how does this become a habit for the PM team? And they don't feel like, oh, it's like, it's not for me, or it's like alien. No, I'm not going to do that, etc. Right? So I think this definitely like the habit forming thing that needs to happen. Like I mentioned earlier, that how PMs are judged is by the quality and the speed of decision making, right? When it comes to work stuff. And with AI, that is so much faster. Like you said, like, hey, like we'll have an idea, then maybe we'll work with the UX designer to put some pictures together, maybe put it in front of the customers. Or worse, like you try to describe it to customers and they can imagine this thing. But now you can go to like Claude and like, okay, I'm going to like give you like 3 or 4 prompts, and within 3 or 4 prompts, I can have something I can put in front of customer, and the picture says 1,000 words, and they can understand, oh, so this is my business data. This is how it will look. Here's what I can manipulate or like, work through. And I think that's just magical, being able to do this like really quick discussions. Like imagine I'm preparing for a customer meeting and I can spend just less than half an hour to even clip something that I can throw it in front of them and get quick feedback, validation. That validation cycle is just getting so much more accelerated and eventually like helping making like better decisions for the product teams. I think that is magical in my opinion, right? That's game changing how fast this can happen. Actually, just a few days ago, I was trying out Figma's Make tool. So they announced that maybe a month ago it's in beta. If you use Figma as an organization, like you have your design style guide and things like that. Now it actually really does look like your product, which is not something you can do easily in Claude, for example, right? Even more easier for customers to see themselves using a certain thing and being able to tell like, no, not this is how we envision this. That whole validation cycle is so much faster. So I think that's what I definitely want like PMs to do. And it's also a great communication tool. A lot of times teams are remote, right? So you're sitting in front of the computer, trying to like, work with the designer, engineer. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. Like, for example, we had this like analytics page, and what we wanted to do was like, can AI show the things that are like, not the norm, right? Like, what is the abnormality in the data? And we're discussing, when you were in the same room and everybody was in person, you can like go to a conference room, draw things out. Ugly drawings. I had the most ugly drawings, so I'm grateful for these tools actually. And now we can like share screen, like, oh, let's just like whiteboard they like, create this thing like super fast. And like, this is how I want the interaction. That saves hours for even like internal communication of the teams. And another game changer in terms of like accelerating, not just the validation process, but also internal communication process, because seeing is so much faster than just talking about describing things. I wonder if PR is going to become just prototypes that PM just send over.
I don't know if I know a single person who would not be happy about that, like not having to write PDs, but it seems like so far, any of those tools, you still have to communicate pretty strong to it. Being able to, rather than have someone read this big memo of requirements and use case and like visualize it, having it there is, like you said, it's just so much more powerful, and you can really tell the story and show the story versus just kind of like talk around the story a little bit.
That's exactly right. I actually reminds me of a funny joke. When I started my career in Microsoft, and there were a couple of PMs who were really notorious for doing this. They will take a printout of their PRD, 50 pages, no
Yeah.
less, and like literally tape it to the door and like put a note there, like, have you read this yet? So before the engineers come to the office, like, have you read the PRD? Because the answer that you're looking for is likely in the PRD. It's really hard
Right.
to consume information from a 50-page document. But here you
Yeah.
can see exactly the kind of the behavior and like the storytelling is so much easier to consume and visualize.
The solution to writing 50-page PRDs is kind of the same as the solution to dealing with 50-page PRDs, because now you can just put it into Google Notebook LM and just ask like any question of a 50-page doc. And I use that thing religiously. That thing's great. I think Figma you brought up is an interesting one there, because that is just a company that like continues to find ways to be incredibly powerful, right? They explosive growth into that, almost acquisition by Adobe. That whole thing torpedoed. They came back and basically just said, watch this, watch what we do now, and continued to grow in value. Then everyone said, oh, AI is going to kill this thing, all the, AI prototyping and stuff. Goodbye to Figma. And then they launched Make, and it's right back in there. And they just continue to show they understand that audience and know what they're doing. You can't tool your way out of a problem, but also if you have great people and smart people in the drive to solve the problem and you understand the problem, tech is not going to kill you. There's ways to make it a part of what you're doing, but you have to be smart and just get ahead of it.
That is exactly right. And they're doing killer stuff, by the way. I remember like maybe 2 years ago, they had two products, right? Figma Design and FigJam. And now if you go to their website, there are 8 products. 4 of them are like within the last 6 months in beta, right? And they're all like AI forward, like Figma Dev, Figma Make. I'm just blown away by the speed of innovation they're driving. Like they're back in a big way, and good luck for the IPO too. It seems like they're setting themselves up really well with that.
Yeah, I would not count out Dylan in that team ever. And one piece I do want to hit on is there is this idea of prototyping and all these things you can push forward to make things more real. I talked to a CPO a couple of weeks back who was saying that he actually had product people shipping code into production. We kind of got inspired by that. So now you've worked with analytics tools and all those things where you have to kind of have your engineering team build a custom event into the software for you, right? It's a pain in the butt, and like you forget something, you gotta wait a sprint or 2 sprints, and you're like a month out before you get that metric you want. We figured out how to integrate and just made a little bot in Slack that you can just ask, and it integrates with our cursor instance, and it will build the custom event for you and just release it. And so, we've never really operated off of custom events too heavily. We're mostly auto capture, but you can use it for precision in some cases. And it's been great. I've used it a couple of times. Now I have like 3 little tiny lines of code in the LogRocket production instance. So I'm gonna claim that until the day I die.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, like I do think about like can PMs now instead of writing like bugs into Jira, and they're like, okay, go fix this. I'm actually a bigger fan of self-healing code. Like, it receives Jira from whosoever, like whether it's customer success, whether it's PM, and like self-heals that. And I wonder if like developers actually don't want PMs to write anything, even if it's AI generated, they just want AI to write it, which is fair too. But like this is amazing. Like, it's kind of democratizing. Like, don't have
Right.
to like for smaller things, faster execution. Could you just like fix things directly versus like the whole Jira process, prioritization, backlog grooming, all the good stuff.
I feel like there's a lot of cases where you have this world where everyone thinks it's like engineers don't like product managers and they're always like button heads. That's true some places. Okay, that is true in some places. But that's also not like in a lot of places they agree on the things they don't like, right? Like no one wants to do the little paper cut fixes to code. No one wants to spend their time racking up little 1 point tickets to just bug fix a bunch of crap that accidentally made it through unit testing or all the testing protocols and stuff like that. You guys launched, I think, one of the cooler things I've ever heard of in Slack. And it's such a great way to do it because people are already there. Like one of the big problems in general, I feel like with AI has been there's all these tools, but you have to change all your workflows and there's so much inertia to how people operate. If you can get the productivity and the capability where people already are, you can create magic. And you and the team built basically like a PM intern into your Slack. Let's talk about that because I am still like, my hair is still blown back by this.
Yeah, no, this is actually one of the most powerful and most fun things ever. I love custom GPTs, right? So I write my custom GPTs for everything. And I was like, hey, do you have this amazing data? Our sales team captures this amazing data in Salesforce. We have the customer success team. We have these gone calls and like all these different things. Can we just throw them and create custom GPT to like just give us data about, what are the biggest requests in analytics from large customers or things like that, and being able to answer some very simple questions. So I created in ChatGPT custom GPT that was like PM intern, super useful. Then my head of product operations came up with an even better idea. I was like, Neha, could we do something like, and I think he used Zapier to hook this up in a custom Slack channel where you can just go in like, hey, PM intern, like what are the biggest requests from X, Y, and Z? So and so customer just said this. Our other customers also asking the same feature, or we have a product called engagement. Like for example, in engagement, what are the top customer requests that we get from SMB, small medium business, and that has been game changing. It's such a powerful way of democratizing data and putting this into your fingertips and making like really good decisions. And especially when it comes to roadmap planning or even in between, right? Like you get some customer escalation, you're like, hey, we want this feature. Like, oh, who else wants this feature? Let's learn more about this. And instead of wading through 5 different data sources all in one place, super accessible to anybody in the organization, I think that is very, very powerful. Obviously, still have to use a lot of spreadsheets. For example, it doesn't connect directly to Salesforce, or it doesn't connect to like some of the systems we use. So we're doing some kind of automated exports out to like a forwarder from which GPT reads from. And this is where like I love like MCP connectors, all those things to be coming true, so that like all this content can be pulled in from multiple sources and create this very useful picture for whether it's roadmap planning, big bets, small fixes, and just make it super accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I just launched ChatGPT agent, right? Maybe very soon it will just be the things that you can't get through some native APIs. Just ask the agent to go fetch specific data you want.
Yeah, exactly.
It adds 30 seconds, but it's fine. It's way faster than what the old world was. You had, like you said, 5-6 tools that you were manually going through, pulling data out, correlating it, figuring out, is it relevant? Is it not? Does this support this, thesis? And do these match up? And, God help you if you found a difference between data across a few tools. Like, now you got to start all over again.
One of the companies I'm advising right now, they are also very big in Latin America. And some of their customer feedback comes in a different language. Sometimes Portuguese, sometimes it's Spanish. It's like, I don't understand this and I want to see some of these things. And just having like, oh, this can be automatically translated. I don't have to worry about pasting it in Google Translate or some other tool and kind of figuring it out. I think it's just so fast and fascinating the way it's emerging.
That is, I think, a drastically underrated advantage that AI has just quietly solved and no one talks about. There's things that would have been revolutionary on their own that get completely buried under the bigger things that they do. It's nuts. So looking at the team and using this agent, how did that kind of play out? Were there surprising areas where that showed value?
There were no surprises because the product team has been really good at like just looking at 50 data sources. But I also know if I ask like my principal PM, like, hey, I'm looking at this, can you give me a report out? And the amount of time she used to take for all the right reasons to pull everything together, it was just massive. And now it's just at fingertips, like it's just like within seconds. That has been just game changer. And the best part is it's not just the product team, right? Anyone can use it. So it's like a marketer and they are, or like a salesperson trying to go into a customer meeting and they want to pull out a few things. I think that is like, just democratizing access to or feedback from everyone. My goal is like just making sure everybody in the organization is thinking very product minded and customer minded. So I think this definitely helps achieve that.
We had a woman named Sierra on who is over at Apartment List, and she was talking about kind of this exact use case where they had hooked all these kind of feedback sources together and they were running interviews through, parsing in GPT and using that to kind of make sure they were kind of lining it up with all the feedback and all the details they had. And one output that they had from that was they realized that kind of what they were really gung-ho on building, it wasn't that there wasn't product market fit. There was, like everyone really liked the feature capability. It was just, it existed like everywhere and there wasn't really a big demand for it because it was really strongly done elsewhere and it didn't fit in the model of kind of what they wanted to be as a company. And they were able to not just increase speed of going through this data, but they were actually able to check the humans and provide the kind of a second set of eyes to make sure and rationalize their thought. And they saved a lot of time on potentially working on something that ultimately would have probably been a bad road to go down.
Yeah, that is true, right? Because I think humans, we suffer from emotions, which is also strength, but also sometimes a weakness. And having a more data-driven approach, which like in kind of second set of eyes, like you said, providing the perspective can be so meaningful.
Yeah. So what went into building the intern here? Like, was it just uploading a ton of all your kind of customer context from your end, or was there more to it where you were kind of training it on what the output looked like? How complex was it to actually build what sounds like a really, really useful tool?
It is actually super simple. And I'm surprised, like, first of all, that it's very simple. Secondly, people still don't build enough of their like personal GPTs to make themselves more productive. It's just giving the GPT like instructions on like, hey, here the inputs I'm giving you, here's the output I want, this is what I want. And funny enough, adding things like don't hallucinate, don't give answers, don't make up stuff works really well. And testing it, because it's almost like using a RAG model. So it's not like training. Training it is kind of like retrieving from the source of truth, which is what I want actually. And actually turning off like, hey, don't search the internet, search only this data. This is the truth. The search function is also very useful if you're doing deeper market research, which some folks do, but not in conjunction with this. It was less than half an hour to set this up. And I don't know how much time they used using Zapier to kind of hook this up in Slack. I remember him asking like, hey, Neha, can you share this access with me? And I'm going to hook it up. I was like, okay, that was morning. And by after, he's like, oh, by the way, he's a Slack channel I created. So, okay, great.
The one inquiry that you were talking about earlier that your director did into like how something went and having to go across 5 or 6 different tools, you probably saved enough time in just that one research mission to pay back all the time it took to like build it. It sounds like,
yeah, or not even like it would not even take us like one day to ever like look through like 5 different data sources and
right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is it's quick to do that, but you've done kind of all the previous work we've talked about to understand how this stuff works. I think this came up once I was talking to people before and someone's asking like, well, how do you get going? How do you get started? And it's literally just pick a problem you want to solve that sounds good or even doesn't sound good. Just try and solve things. Just everything you do, take a little bit of time and go like, how could I solve this using AI or how do I approach this with that? And try. And it's going to suck the first couple of times. Like you're not going to have good outputs the first couple of times, but keep at it and you'll just get better at it, right?
That's exactly right. So funny enough, like I do not want to underestimate how hard it can be for some people. So I advise this investor firm and the CEO of the company, like I was talking to him, like, hey, why don't you just write a GPT for this? It's like, oh, how do I write this? I showed him. And it's like, so what instructions can I give it? And it was just so hard for some folks to fathom, like how to tell AI to do what they want it to do. So I think that's just been, that was mind blowing for me to see like, wow, to me, this tool is so simple. And yet some folks find it very hard to like fathom, imagine how they can use it. I think that has been kind of a trend, like, where like people over time will start learning how they can tell AI to do the things they want to do. And just get used to this fact.
There's so much cool stuff that you've touched on, and this is just such a deep topic, and I kind of enjoy talking about it. Thank you, Neha, for coming on. If people want to reach out and, pick your brain or ask questions about anything a little bit deeper, what's the best spot? Is LinkedIn good or is there a better spot?
Yeah, LinkedIn is amazing. Yeah, that's a great place to start with. Like just drop me a note. Or like my personal email address is neha.monga@gmail. And I don't mind people reaching out to me directly as well. And honestly, Jeff, thank you for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great. Have a good one. Let's keep in touch and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.